Representative John Schertz, you're back.
Matt, man, nice to see you.
Nice
I came bearing gifts.
This
you doubted me a little bit. You didn't know I'd come back with the real deal.
Oh, it's a sheep pelt. God, my only regret is I can't wear it like Game of the Thrones.
Oh, you can. Hey man, this is your show, my friend.
I know, but I'd have to cut a hole here like a serape because I'm Mexican, so I'm a big fan of serapes.
Love it.
I actually didn't know that serapes weren't in everybody's houses. Like when I was a kid growing up, we had this basket of like wool blankets that were very colorful.
Yeah.
Some of them had holes in that you could just throw them on like a two-sided cake.
This is a real deal. You can wear it, do whatever you want with a real Idaho sheep pelt right there.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, Idaho wool growers helped me out with it. Great folks over there. I know. Thank you. Did you have Liz on here?
I haven't had Liz, so I had Brett.
Oh, you had Brett. Okay, his wife.
He brought in a big old leg of lamb.
Oh, he did. Okay,
so good. That was baller. I haven't had Liz on. I really love to. In fact, I didn't even know that Brett was the ag economist that would like do presentations. I saw him recently. I was like, Brett, we didn't even talk about that. Like, come back. But we had this great bit, the segment where we were talking about how sheep and mutton fell out of favor in the United States. And he's like, listen, World War II.
They made him eat them. Yeah.
They made him.
Yep.
There's like, what was his line? They sent 50, in World War II, they sent 50-gallon barrels filled with two things, diesel and mutton. Not in the same barrel. And he's like, people came back, and the vets from World War II were like, under no circumstance will I ever have lamb or mutton in this house again. And it just died. Because I remember growing up and like we would have lamb. We always had that like crystallized mint jelly.
Yep.
You
hit it with it.
I remember just slopping that on and stuffing down down the lamb.
Great. If it's cooked right, it's amazing. And it's coming back. You see some of it come back, even in some of these hipster restaurants. You see the lamb burger, right? I think the lamb burger and the hipster restaurant, that's what I have faith, as a sheep guy, that the hipsters will bring us back with the lamb.
The chefs in the back with skinny jeans on.
Yep. That's going to save us. That will save the Idaho sheep industry is the hipster revolution.
Oh my God, we need more hipsters. They need to go to work with on the fixed gear bike.
Yeah,
with
100%.
The handlebars that are only this wide. And they're riding down the street to make the lamb burger. I have actually a really good friend in North Carolina who's I feel like there's a resurgence back to like, can we just eat the way we ate like 80 years ago? Because like grandma lived to be 105 and she drank a Manhattan every night.
Yep, and had the real meat.
Yeah, had the real meat. And so he actually has made this tallow company, beef tallow, in stick form. So, because like you always get it in a jar. He's like, but people don't cook in jar. Like that's not in their workflow to get out like a spoon and get something out of it. Yeah. He's like, they use sticks of butter. So he made this stick tallow and he's selling it in these, in different, butcher shops and things of that nature, meat markets.
Fantastic.
Yeah. But what he was saying is there's apparently this, like, you ever see John Wick?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know how everybody's like tatted up to the nines and everybody's dressed three-piece suits and stuff. Yep. And he's like, that's essentially what you have with this resurgence of like the hipster butcher shop where it's like they're tatted up, they're wearing a vest, and they know
they got
like
the mustache.
They got the mustache and they know the Latin names like for every single like small little strip of meat.
Oh yeah. They're wearing the Red Wings. They're doing it all.
Dude, they're doing the whole thing. And it's like that's their shtick. And they have these like, $1,000 aprons on and stuff and just tattoos with the French cuff sleeves rolled all the way up.
If they're into lamb, I'm all for it. Right. Right.
Whatever.
I'm all for it.
God, but again, thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Idaho wool growers. I have to get those people on. I want to talk to them.
They're fantastic. Yeah, they're fantastic. You need to get my uncle on here. I mean, that's a big thing.
That's a big
my Uncle Frank, he's a big sheep producer in the state. He's fantastic. So it's
Uncle Frank. Let's do this.
Let's do it. He'll come in. He'll give you. He's done it all.
We're coming up to the next sheep crossing.
Right? Yeah, we are. We are in May, and you know what's happening? I don't know if they told you about this. They're going to do a thing out at Avamore. Is what they came presented in ag. There's a ranch out of Avamore. Our sheep are going to cross out there on 55, and they're going to do a whole little festival out in Avamore, I think in early May.
Bro, I'm there.
Yeah. Oh, come.
I'm there. I'll do a live stream.
Let's do it.
From the sheep crossing.
Yeah, our sheep will be there. My Uncle Frank will have his sheep, and they're bringing it all back. There's a little ranch there. The public's all invited. And it's, dude, when the sheep cross there at Beacon Light, it brings out thousands of people. I was out there last year. Thousands and thousands line up. Just so much history to it, and it'll be fun. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's get my Uncle Frank out there. We'll get him to do a live feed.
I'll do like a ranch coffee station.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. awesome.
You can come and sit and drink coffee,
Yeah.
and we'll do a live
I
stream.
think it's 8th or the 9th. I think it's around that, whatever that weekend is.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
we could even. I'll even bring out like mic equipment. And you could sit down and like we could have like these mini 5-minute interviews.
let's do it.
Yeah,
you have to wear it though.
Dude, I will throw this bad boy on. I will be like the most Mexican Idaho sheep guy ever with the sheepskin serape.
I love it, man. That's gonna be the dream.
All right, listen to me. You have a job, and I asked you to come.
I do. Yeah.
I'm so excited. I didn't know you were going to bring me this. Listen, there are a couple things I want to talk to you about. 3 bills in particular: DUI bill, Bolter stall bill, and then don't tell me.
Probation. I told you.
2 a.m. You pull somebody over.
That's
you want to search them. They're on probation. You don't have to get the parole officer. Okay.
Yeah. Our cops.
Awesome. Let's start with the first one here. So talk to me about the DUI enhanced bill. So again, the idea is, look, you're going to install a mandatory minimum for DUIs.
Correct.
Right? Like you get a DUI. Okay. You get a second DUI and kill somebody.
Yeah.
You got a mandatory.
You're going
minimum.
to prison.
Explain to me the nuances.
Yeah.
Here.
And this problem really stems from, personal experiences. I mean, I myself, I had an aunt who was killed by a drunk driver. I grew up and had, my mom was severely injured by a drunk driver. I grew up, and I know a lot of people have this, right? They have a personal, they know some personal story where someone's been severely hurt or injured or killed by a drunk driver. And we see it in our valley. Since 2019, there's been a 53% increase in DUI related deaths here in the Treasure Valley. That's from the Idaho Transportation Department.
53% increase.
Yes.
And these are deaths.
Deaths. I think a 26% increase in drunk driving itself, and just a drastic increase in actual deaths. I think it's about 40% of the fatalities on the road are by driving under the influence of some intoxicating thing, either alcohol or some type of drugs. We're trying to get at that problem. And in the way we did it, Senator Treg Burnt did a good job. He brought this bill last year, and I helped him out with on the Senate side this year. So he got it through the Senate. We had the hearing, the House yesterday, and we heard some really just compelling testimony from cops who have been on the street dealing with these, have to show up after the deaths occur. And one of my fellow committee members was an Idaho State Police chaplain, Mike Pohanka, Representative Pohanka. He'd be the one going out to the families and telling them after this had happened that their loved one had died. A lot of people had personal experiences about this. And so what the bill does...
May I ask, did Representative Hill come out?
Yeah, he did. And he talked about, Yeah.
I mean, his 16-year-old daughter, right?
Yeah. And it was really... Yeah, he talked about that yesterday. It's just... And so you have so many people with so many personal experiences with this. And our bill focused on those individuals who've got repeated DUIs. And so if what's going to happen in this new bill, if you get your first DUI, you're now going to be warned by the judge telling you, if you get another DUI, if you get a second DUI or further DUIs, and you kill somebody while drinking and driving, you're going to be subject to at least 5 years imprisonment. Right, which is we think is extremely reasonable for taking a life, but we at least want to set a bottom number, and because it gives these victims a lot of comfort. If your family member is killed by somebody like this who's been drinking and driving, now the prosecutors, and this was the testimony we heard, can go and say, hey, we know with this charge, at least this person's going to spend 5 years of their life in prison. And I think that's a pretty reasonable ask when you end up taking someone's life and you've already gotten a DUI. If you have 3 or more DUIs, you subject yourself to a 10-year time limit in prison and upward from there. And we just have to send the message that we just can't have this. You can't have people drinking and driving. I mean, you think around our state, you can get an Uber anywhere. There's no excuse.
You can get an Uber anywhere, man.
Even out where I live, you can get Ubers. You're up in McCall, you can get taxis to come pick you up. There's no excuse to be drinking and driving. I mean, it's losing lives, and it's growing, and it shouldn't be growing.
I have nothing to disagree with anything you said. A couple questions. Right now, as it stands, say I get a DUI.
Yeah.
First off, can I get off with like a fine or something? I'm not familiar with what happens.
If you get your first DUI, right, and you don't harm
That's
anybody,
bad. Okay.
right? It is bad. It's likely going to be a misdemeanor. It's going to be a misdemeanor.
Okay.
You're going to go, you're going to get fined. You're going to go and, pay court costs and all these other, and probably put on probation of some sort, right?
Maybe do some community service.
Correct.
Depending on, okay.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, if it's aggravated, maybe there's a little jail time. I mean, you probably got arrested. You probably you did a little bit of jail time just from the arrest, but
Sure.
it's not, you aren't getting this big heavy hammer.
Okay.
And I think that's what's tough, because sometimes if you're a little too soft when someone gets something like that, it enables that further behavior. Yeah, it's fine. And that's why we really wanted to have the judges instruct people to tell them, hey, this is not going to end well if you keep doing this.
Okay. So if I get my second DUI,
Yeah.
as it stands right now, then essentially there's this increase. Like if I get DUIs, if I keep getting DUIs without injuring anybody, then I eventually lose my license. I probably start doing a little bit of jail time or something like that.
And eventually can turn into a felony of aggravated DUIs the more you get. Yeah.
Okay. So if I'm get like 4 or 5 DUIs, they're like, all right, look, man,
we
got to do something. And I worked at Applebee's when I was a kid. And
did we talk about this last time?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Probably. It's terrible. It was a good life experience. But anyway, my manager, Scott, Scott, it was hilarious. Not always hilarious, but it was hilarious in one part because like his junior year in high school was the best year of his life.
Yeah.
He was 27. He still had a picture of him like winning the state championship in soccer, and the girl he dated in high school. He had these in his wallet. Like he showed me. I was like, wow, yeah, she's really cute, Scott. She was yeah, dude, how hot is this girl? He was 27. I was 18. I'm like, yeah, man, she's beautiful. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And, again, Scott had some things going on because the other thing that happened is I found out that a judge had ordered him to get a shot that would essentially take away all his alcohol tolerance. So he'd have like a real allergic reaction if he drank. And that's something that happens after so many DUIs, right? Which is like, don't send me to jail, please. Right. I haven't killed anyone. Like, give me this shot, this whole thing. And then you have to start check anyway. So, okay, that's how it exists right now. Yeah. If say I get a normal DUI, it's a misdemeanor. I'm not happy about it. Like, I'm sorry, whatever. But then I get the second DUI as it stands right now and I kill someone. Yeah. Is it possible that is that manslaughter or like?
It's manslaughter. Yeah. Vehicular manslaughter.
Vehicular manslaughter. Okay. Yep. What would likely be my term of
it ranges and honestly,
hence mandatory. Minimum, right?
It ranges. I was talking to a good friend of mine who was a prosecutor up in Kootenai County, and the judge, this person had 4 or 5 DUIs. They kill somebody and the judge gave him 1 year indeterminate. Right, which means they can just be paroled like that right away, and
he killed
killed somebody in 1 year indeterminate time, and I was talking about it. And he said the judge said on the record that if the legislature wanted me to give him more time, they would tell me so. And so, and it's like things like that you hear. You're like, how can you? And it gives. I mean, the families are just hurting, right? Absolutely hurting from this reckless behavior. And so having something there, I think this is what it does. And naturally, we don't want people to get in this situation in the first place. Hopefully this is a strong enough deterrent to stop at least some of this from happening. We're not going to solve the whole problem, but ultimately there has to be some retribution, right? For what happens when you take a life and it's your own fault and you've already been convicted of a DUI. So hopefully that's kind of where we're at with that bill. And it got out of committee unanimously. It's going to go to the floor of the House, this early, probably Monday or Tuesday, then hopefully to the governor's desk, assuming it all goes well on the floor next week.
Was there any dissension against this?
No, but last year there was. Last year that bill was killed in committee. And so Senator Burnt brought it back, and it flew out of the Senate last year. Obviously this is my first term. I wasn't there, right? But there were some folks who just, I don't know. It's hard to reach them on the mandatory minimum stuff. So we really worked hard to make sure people understood about why this was so important and why we're facing a real problem in our state with DUIs. And you'd think naturally with the advent of Uber, right? Who's drinking and driving these days? Like why would you ever do that?
Right.
But it continues to rise and continues to hurt people. And so ultimately we have to do something to try to get at these folks.
Yes. Great to hear that it's going out. Again, I don't know anything about law enforcement, but when you start saying you could kill somebody drunk driving and get not even a hard year in jail or prison, like that's pretty wild to me. Okay. Bolter stall bill.
Yeah.
This was another big one, right? And this was enhancing the charges that you could potentially volley against somebody if they were accused of killing a cop or going after a cop specifically. So you have, obviously, if you murder somebody, or if you assault somebody, there's a crime associated with that, right? Charge associated with that. But we gave an enhanced crime for law enforcement agents. So it's like, if you assault Matt, you get a certain charge. If you assault, Matt's friend, the police officer, you get an enhanced charge. And that's, again, named after Bolter and Officer Stahl. Both people that have died in the line of duty for Ada County and Boise PD. Talk to me about this one.
Yeah, I mean, it was really heart-wrenching testimony because they're, representatives of the family testified, the widows were there, and it's just, I mean, I was in full support of it, and it failed, and that's the heartbreaking part. I think, from my perspective, dealing with the folks in Idaho, if you're harming a cop or you're murdering a police officer, there's no doubt you should be exposed to higher penalties, right? Like it didn't make any sense to me. There was a lot of discussion from the other side about we're creating these different classes of people. Like, if you kill Matt, you shouldn't be exposed to more penalties if you kill a police officer versus a regular civilian. My response to that is, and they talked about military officers, right? I think I'm still in the Air Force, right? I'm a military officer myself. And they're like, well, it wouldn't apply to military officers. I'm like, great, we're not asking. We're not asking for it to apply to military officers, because when I go out to Mountain Home or I go out to do my duty and put my uniform on, I'm not pulling people over that could shoot me. Right. And so it's a
which happened in both of these cases.
Yes. Our police officers are exposed to danger day in and day out, and trying to calculate and make sure that we can keep them as safe as possible is paramount. And I couldn't wrap my head around kind of the discussion. Obviously, you always want to be respectful of the other side of what, people's opinions. But that one, it was voted down in committee, and it was tough for me to kind of to watch that and just think, is this really what people of Idaho want? Right. I think when a cop is murdered in our state, there was such an outpouring of anger about it and love for the family, the loved ones that lost somebody. And we're trying to address those problems. And when you have folks who come out against it, I just don't think it's where the public is. I really don't. I think individuals are supportive of, hey, if you go out and do something terrible to a police officer, you should face a higher punishment. You should be held accountable for it.
Yeah.
It was a heavy topic, a heavy topic.
Especially since, again, when you look at the stories of both of these officers, this was a traffic stop.
Yeah.
Right. So this is something that an average citizen like me is like, oh, this is a benign thing, or a more benign. Like, you get annoyed when you get pulled over. You're like, oh,
right.
Like, I don't get a lot of tickets, right? So like, it's only happened once, and I'm like, okay, man, yeah. Like, I was in a rush to jujitsu. Yeah, right. That was 100%. I came around a car. I was going 80. Like, you got like 100%. It was a 65. Fine. Go to jiu-jitsu. I'm like mad.
Right.
But like, that's an interaction where you find this annoyance. That's on the receiving end.
Right.
But on the delivery end, knowing that somebody knows, like, look, the 2 deaths we've had have been from traffic stops. And they're walking up to a car where they're like, this is the moment. Like, this could be the moment. It's so much to ask.
And they're so defenseless, right? Because they pull people over repeatedly. And I've reviewed a lot of cases that didn't result in death, a lot of shootings or attempted shootings. I had this case out of Eastern Idaho where they had it on body cam. And a guy, he was dealing drugs, and they pulled him over. And he's going back, and you see the gun. He's getting ready to shoot the cop. And it slips right out of his hand. Right out of his hand. And the officer was lucky to be alive. He didn't even see it coming. He's just walking up to this car. And this individual, he literally, so I had him on drug charges. I charged him federally. And while awaiting charges, he murders another inmate in prison in Eastern Idaho. And it's just like, it's at some level, we need to come down hard on these individuals, because it's just a repeated cycle. And that one, that bill was probably the toughest one I've seen come through that really affected me. Is like, hey, how can we not get some more traction? Hopefully we can do some stuff on it, bring it back next session, or work on it and find some common ground with some folks. Because it's just It's the last thing we want happening. When people are out there, protecting us day in and day out, we need to be able to have their backs too.
Yeah, man, this is the first time I've been engaged in politics, even just following it, because I'm not, I'm not like a legislator, but following it. And people have told me this session has been particularly rancorous and somewhat disappointing. But man, it's wild to watch this. Yeah. It's wild to understand. I had former Chief Weingar in, and he, I did not know who Mark Stahl was, and he told me the story of Mark Stahl, and I was like, I couldn't even do the interview.
Yeah,
it's like
it's heavy. Yeah,
so it's intense. But this is the legislative process.
Yeah, it is,
right?
And that's a process. Like, and people have people come from things with different perspectives, right? And we always got to try to be respectful, and I try to be respectful of folks from a different perspective. And naturally, people aren't always going to see things my way,
right?
Right. But I think it's good just to advocate for our perspective on things, because I think, ultimately that's the process. You got to trust the process, right? I believe we have a good process, even though sometimes it can get a little hairy in some ways, but
a little hairy.
But it's a good process, but
right. And it's supposed to be hard.
It is, and that's natural. That's not a bad thing. It really isn't a bad thing. And so you got to just keep on going. But we've had good legislation. And then the other bill I got passed that's out of the governor is a good law enforcement bill. This is the
pro. Yeah.
Probation and parole.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is law enforcement's number one priority this session, hands down. And it really follows what Utah is doing, and it comes. We model a lot of language out of Arkansas. But it's what has been happening. Unfortunately, there's a large recruiting crisis in law enforcement. It's hard to get folks into the job. Our parole and probation officers, it's hard to get folks to do it. We just don't have enough bodies. And so when currently our system, which is common throughout all 50 states, if someone's on felony, probation, or parole, it's kind of like an extension of the prison system, right? So they give up some of their rights like they would, in prison, people can come search their cells. If they're on parole, if they get out early, they give the right to their parole officer to come and, search their car or do something just to make sure they're staying on track. What has happened especially in our rural areas in our state, our law enforcement officers will pull somebody over late at night. They know there might be a gang member. They know they're on parole. The current process is they have to call up the parole probation officer, try to get them out there in the middle of the night to come and help them search.
Okay.
Yeah.
Explain this under normal circumstances. Yeah. I get pulled over at 2 a.m.
Yep.
I'm not on parole.
Right.
Can you search me for something, or do you have you need probable cause?
Yeah. You mean you need reasonable suspicion, right?
Okay.
Yep.
So like if something's amiss,
right.
You're like, no. Okay.
Right.
I'm now a felon.
Right.
Okay. And you pull me over. You still can't search me. You need reasonable suspicion.
If you're a felon and the cops are there, they can't search you currely.
Okay.
Parole officer can.
Okay.
Currently, and a probation officer can. They can come out and do it.
Okay.
In our state because they've consented to that and given them consent. What this bill does is what follows the Utah model, follows a bunch of other states around our country, is allows the peace officers, the law enforcement officers, to be able to execute that search.
There we go. In the absence of the parole
Correct.
officer. Okay. So
Correct.
the whole nuance is, look, if I pull you over or you pull me over,
Yeah.
I'll be the felon.
Yeah.
You pull me over. You pull me over and I'm a felon and you're like, something's not right.
Yep.
You don't have enough that on normal circumstances where it's like, well, I don't have like reasonable cause necessarily,
right.
but I would like to search this guy.
Yeah.
And I'm a felon
Yeah.
and I am a felon and I'm
Right.
on parole.
And you're out at 2 or 3 in the
I'm
morning
out at
and
2
you're
or
like,
3 in the
wonder what's
morning.
going on.
It's like, did you just get off your shift?
Right.
Like, what are you doing out here?
Right.
And you want to search me. Now you can if you call like Steve, and Steve's a parole officer,
Yeah.
and Steve picks up the phone
Yep.
at 2 a.m, but if Steve's like, I'm either not there or I'm not
Yeah.
picking up my phone, they go.
They go.
So this bill says, hey, no.
Yeah.
The peace officer that engages with this person will have the same rights to search that the parole officer has.
It's that simple.
Got it.
And the testimony was, we had that there's 10 or probably about 10 law enforcement officers came in and testified about the great need for this. And for some of the testimony I thought was really, really helpful. So over on the eastern side of the state, the interstate's a big drug trafficking corridor, right? Because it comes up from Salt Lake, it's going up towards Montana. So a lot of drugs run on the interstate headed north and south. And so the officers, they pulled somebody over in one county. They were a parolee. They called up the parole office. They couldn't get them out there not because they wouldn't want to, but they're busy. Whatever it is. So they waited, and there's an officer safety risk there too. Like if you're waiting on the side of the road with someone who's on parole, it's a big safety risk. They didn't have to cut them loose. They cut them loose 2 counties up. The officers pull somebody else, another officer, unbeknownst to the first one, pulls them over again, driving erratically. They're able to develop enough reasonable suspicion to search the vehicle, and they find that he was trafficking drugs naturally. And so it's just those type of situations where
or it's like the original officer's suspicion was accurate.
Yep, was accurate.
He should have been able to act upon it.
Yeah.
And the enormous risk to society to have somebody driving counties and counties with drugs, not just driving erratically, but actually if he had made it to, aside from driving erratically, if he actually had made it to his destination with the said drug payload, that has untold risk to society as well.
But it helps keep our officers safe, right? If they know now in the state, this is headed to the governor's desk, just past the Senate. If they know in each and every agreement that goes out, this will be a term of it. So when they pull somebody over, they know they're on parole. They know they can ask them, hey, can I search the vehicle? And they know they can actually search. They have that right to search the vehicle now, search the person. And we don't want these people to be recommitting crimes. And if they're not doing anything wrong, they get sent on their way. And that's all well and good. It saves them time, saves the officer time, keeps them safer. And ultimately, the biggest goal, which I think is part of the legislature, one of the biggest reasons I'm down there, is to make sure we protect society, right? That we keep people safe. And this just applies, we only applied it to felons, felony criminal level. We didn't apply it to misdemeanor folks, just our most serious criminals. So it was law enforcement, really worked hard just to kind of make sure the legislature know, because it's kind of a nuanced part of the law, right? It's not as straightforward as like, hey, we're going to put, mandatory minimums for a certain crime. It's like, this is kind of how it happens. And, we want to make sure that people understand, hey, this isn't affecting your rights, right? Parolees have to consent to this as part of their agreement. So, working through all that took a lot of time, but once the legislature knew, hey, this is how important it is, people got on board, and away we go. So hopefully that gets signed with the governor next week and is made into law soon.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was a big win for the law enforcement. They're excited. They're blowing up. I'm on a group chat, and they're blowing up the group chat when they saw the vote come out on the Senate side.
Dude, the
other day. So it was great.
Get off group chats. Like, you know what's funny? I think.
Am I too old for the group chat? Maybe I am. I don't know. Maybe
you're an attorney. There's too much liability. You know that.
On the group chat.
Like, you can't be on it. It's like there's this ultimate, there's this problem with group chats that people put you on them, and they're like, why did you put me on this? I did not agree to be part of this group. And then, oh man, the worst is when you have somebody that, first off, it has a green bubble instead of blue. I'm like, I hate you. Yeah. Somebody likes it. It's like
one of those.
This person liked it. Yeah. Don't talk to me if you got the green bubble, right? So there's that. But the other problem with the green bubbles is you can't block yourself from being re-added. So every
they can get you.
Yeah. So if you ever get stuck on a group chat with old people that don't know this, and you just keep leaving and they keep putting you back on, it's like a circle of hell.
My dad's one of 10. My aunts and uncles, they all live in Idaho, pure Idahoans. But I'm on a group chat with them. Oh boy. Oh boy. Like 60 and 70-year-olds.
You know what's funny? There's a point when you can realize that an old person realized they could send a meme. Or
Oh yeah.
They start sending you gifts and they're like, these are so funny. Johnny, look at this. It's so funny. And you're like, oh, Jesus, Bethany. Yes, Aunt Bethany. I know. And then it's like a dog. It's like a chicken with a lightsaber running around. And they're like, oh my God, it has a lightsaber, Johnny.
They love it, man.
Now. Yeah.
They love it.
Yeah, it's a good time. Listen, I really appreciate you.
Yeah, man.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
We're close to the end.
Yeah. We're there. We're almost there.
I didn't think I was going to make it.
Yeah.
Honestly.
That makes two of us.
First 3-4 weeks, I was like, there's no way I can make this 2.5 months.
Yeah.
I've been hearing from people that there's a level of fatigue that sets in around this time. And I've been in the Capitol several times, even this last week, Senate State Affairs, Ed committees, all these things. And it's like, wow, people are looking like a little haggard.
They're beat.
And they're just like, I don't.
It's long days. Long days. for the folks. I mean, it's 8, 9 at night. Typically, there's always something. Always something.
The engagements.
Yeah, there's always something. And people are meeting up.
There's some not meet and greet, but not cocktail networking thing. Yeah. There's always like a networking thing to go to. There's always a reception. We have the reception the night before, and then the event the next day.
Right.
I would like you to come to both. And you're like,
right, yeah, exactly.
Dude, what are you talking about? And people move into the other thing I've realized is a lot of them are like eating on the fly. Where it's like, I got to eat real fast because I haven't eaten all day. And then like, I can only be here for an hour and then I got to go to the next thing.
And you can't walk through that place without somebody grabbing you and be like, can I talk to you about this? It's like, oh my gosh, I just want to get to my office.
I bet like that's the thing. When I've been in there, like standing in the hall, you know, like I wear the hoodies. Like some people's, they're like, oh, all time.
They're coming up to you because they like you. They're like genuinely. they don't want something. They're like,
but I feel so bad. I'm like, don't stop.
Yeah.
It was like, no, it's cool. Text me later. Yeah. Like I know you're like, and a lot of times, especially in the last couple of weeks, because things have been running late. People later in the day, like the 2, 3, 4 o'clock interviews, they're like, hey, I got to reschedule. I'm so sorry. I'm like, you're at work.
Yeah.
Like, don't apologize.
We got to push this from last week. Yeah. Because I was, we ended up like, I'm on the floor and like, we're still voting. I think we went like an hour long or something like that.
Yeah. But like,
trying to get through the business.
Right. I went in to meet with Representative Raymond, and he was like 45 minutes late, and he was I'm like, you're at work, man. Yeah. Like, I'm just a dude you're meeting with. So, like, I am like, it's wild how much it takes out of you guys, especially at the end when they're like, we got to get through like,
you're hustling.
We got to get through 200 more.
Yeah,
like we got to make decisions here. But we're only on like HB 350.
Yeah, but that's the cool part about our state. We're part time, right? As we should be. Nobody in Idaho wants us down there full time. Lord help us if we spend time down there the whole year. We're trying to wrap up our business during that time period and knock stuff out. And that's why we work so hard to just make sure we can be part-time, because some of these other states, they turn into a year-long affair. And it just you're never getting anything done.
And then you have the this is the other thing. A friend of mine asked me like a month or two ago. He was like, what do these people do?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, the last guy I talked to is a farmer, and the next guy was an irrigation consultant, and the next guy was another farmer.
Right.
And like you go like Representative Raymond is a rancher. He used to be the president of cattle.
He's shipping cows on weekends. That's his favorite thing to do.
It's why it's like we have actual functional Idahoans who are boots on the ground, operating small businesses in their communities, dealing with problems. And this is like they stop that. They freeze that for a matter of roughly 3.5 months.
Right.
Not that the rest of the time they're not doing anything. The other 8.5 months are still fielding calls, meeting with people and everything. But it's like they really make this effort to be engaged with Idaho. And it is a labor. Like this is this. What you get paid like $18,000 for 3.5 months?
Yeah, it's no one's there for the money. No one's there for the money at all. Right. I mean, it's just it's true public service. That's what makes our state so great, right? We have people who really, really love the state and are there to sacrifice a couple months of their lives to make sure we, do like Representative Raymond. He could be on his farm, just living a good life, enjoying life, working with cattle, which I think is his favorite thing to do. That's what I see him get most excited about.
He's like,
he really loves it. He gets to go home.
He's just beaming. He's just beaming, talking about his bovine population.
Oh, that's it. He loves it. But it's people like that who just care so much about our state and want to keep it that way. That's what makes Idaho so amazing, that we have so many people that care and are willing to sacrifice a little bit of their life and their time to go and do something like this. It's like, you're not there for the money. You're not there to do, other things.
Here's the thing. You see a lot of criticism at the national level. Like, how did Nancy Pelosi get so rich?
Right.
Like, she is.
I do have questions. I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out myself.
She's the best stock trader in the history. Like, she beats Warren Buffett's record every time.
I love the Twitters that follow her.
I love it. It's there's a feed that's just her stock trades, like the Pelosi stock trades, right? Yep. And it's my understanding that AOC also has I don't know, but it's my understanding. Like there are people there that get rich in ways that you're like, how? Yeah. You live in DC pretty much year round. You make $190,000, which maybe gets you a 2-bedroom apartment.
Maybe.
And now you're worth $10 million. Like how? But the interesting thing about this state is like, no,
that's not it. That's not it.
Because like you're still like Representative Raymond. I was supposed to meet with him, or we were chatting yesterday. He's like, "Hey, listen, I got to reschedule because I got a problem at home." I was like, "Oh, go take care of your family." Like, my family's fine.
It's with a cow. My cows.
And it's like, yeah, dude, go take care of your cow.
Yeah.
So like, if he's the insider training, he's doing a real bad
That's
job.
an Idaho problem. I got cow problems. That's Idaho.
Like one jump the fence. This one, I was talking to, I had Spencer, actually had breakfast with Spencer Black. We ended up spending so much time.
He's a good guy. Yeah.
He's
Cattleman
great, dude.
president.
Yeah. We ended up spending so much time at breakfast. We missed the opportunity, the window for the podcast. So I'll have but he's talking about like all of the, it's a 24-hour gig. He's like, I got this cow who delivered twins. And then you got to like find a different, cause like the mom is like, or like somebody delivers a calf in the river. It's like all of these things, man. It's like, oh my God.
I was talking to my dad before, because I'm going home back up to the ranch after this. And I was talking to my dad before I came in here. And he was like, oh, I'm going to Homedale. Something on the feed wagon broke. He has to go get a part. And they didn't have it in Fruitland. Like, that's just, that's the farm life. There's always something broken. Something always needs, it's just continual. It never ends.
Let me ask you this. You've been so close to this your whole life.
Oh,
Why didn't you go into that life? I know that's a very personal, you don't have to
Yeah,
answer
no,
that.
I think it's an interesting question, because I mean, it is still a huge part of my life, because we live out there, right? You know, and I help out whenever my dad needs it. And so, and it'll end up being, you know, ours one day too. So that there's always that part of it. But it is interesting to think, because like my parents, my dad didn't go to college, right? My grandfather, if you ever get out to Weiser, we're in the Mans Creek Valley. And so in the Mans Creek Valley, there's 3 like one-room schoolhouses. My grandfather went to one, like to the 8th grade. And that was it. That was all his formal education. One-room school, 8th grade, Weiser, Idaho. And then he sheared sheep his whole entire life. That's what he did for work. And then he worked until he was like 86. He was out there cutting hay. And my dad, same way, and just worked. And I just grew up like that too. I mean, ever since, I think when I was like a 3rd grader, I'd get off the school bus, and like it was my job to go water every sheep we had. Like that was just it. And I think part of me always, I don't know what it was, I just wanted to go try to do something else, you know, do something different, you know, have a different challenge. And that's kind of what led me to law and doing different things too, but always trying to get back, you know, and that's where it's so nice, can represent my area where I grew up, trying to have that to be part of my life too. But it's hard, because I think the biggest reason, I don't think we talked this last time, when I was in high school and college, my family went through a lot of litigation about federal grazing land and sheep grazing down in Hell's Canyon. And so that was a big thing, because I saw how the federal government and federal overreach can end up taking away a private business. And that's what happened to us. We had this big federal overreach. We lost a ton of our grazing land. And that was kind of the big reason why I ended up getting into law. You know, I wanted to help our farmers and ranchers, because then there was people who helped us for sure, but gosh, they need a voice. They need a voice with somebody who understands the side of it, the farming and ranching side, right? And also the side of like the legal side. And I think when you mix those two in, you can really explain why that's so important, why, you know, this industry that's been such a big part of Idaho history and will hopefully continue to be a big part of our, you know, of our heritage moving forward is so important, but you got to balance that with the legal side. And so that's kind of what jump started. Hey, we just need good voices. And it's been great, but it's nice trying to find that balance, because, you know, have you read the book The Shepherd's Life with James Rebanks? It's great. It's great. And he writes about, it's in the UK. He's from the Lake District. He grew up on a sheep ranch. He ends up going to Oxford, and kind of this life about trying to be back and forth to 2 different things. And the whole part, the sheep there, they call it being hefted. Verb, right? You're hefted to the land. They don't have fences. And when they take their sheep up, the sheep have been there for thousands of years. They know exactly where they go, and they all stay there. And so it's shown through his own life. Even though, you know, I felt this way when I read the book, I kind of left and did other things in my life. But we're always, I think, as Idahoans, and Phyllis especially, kind of hefted in some ways. We feel a part of where we came from, part of the land, and definitely I feel that when I'm at home. And so yeah, it's always you have to read. It's a great book. Great book.
Oh, I can tell you, I don't think that's an Idaho thing.
Yeah.
If I have to go to the state that shall not be named, and I have to fly in,
I don't even want to say it.
I don't even want to say it. There's a lot of hurt there.
But
if I have to go there, I cannot help the fact that when I step off the plane and the air hits me, I'm like, I'm like it's impossible.
Yeah.
And I think, like you, I don't think this is a pride. Like you see this with like animals.
Yeah.
Like they pair to things.
Yeah.
We pair, like there's no, and human beings do it. Like we pair to our parents, right? Like there's no, we have a bonding mechanism that we engage. Just like, okay, I could never replace my relationship as much as I love or hate my dad, or I love or hate my mom. It's like, there's no replacing the relationship you have with your mom and dad.
Yeah.
And you can explain to people all day long why, you know, your mom was great or your dad was great or your mom was bad or your dad was bad. It's like, it doesn't matter, right? Like you can't be done with that. We always want to know what our roots were. We want to understand that. And this is an interesting concept because I've been thinking about this exact thing for years since I moved here, which is essentially, you understand the draw. You understand that feeling, whatever your home is.
Yeah.
And there's a population of people here that will never feel that again. Yeah. They will never breathe the air that they breathe there. They will never feel the breeze at night. Like if I'm in Berkeley at night, because I have to be there for something, like the summer breeze that blows through that place is like, I am 21 again, hanging out with my wife. Like there's no replacing it. And that needs to be understood, that it's like, this is hard for everyone. Yeah. It's hard for you. It's hard for you that I moved here. I get that. And I am so like, when Governor Little came to my studio, he's like, it was either him or his grandfather or his dad. He's like, we would run sheep right here through, like across this ground right here. And here there's a studio. Right. And I get that. And you know, like I can't make it right. I moved here. I didn't know. Right. And I'm certainly learning these things as I go. Like I'm an idiot. And I'm going through life in real time. Right. I don't have this planned out, but damn it, man. It's also important to know, like, we have to understand each other as a state, right? I need to understand what it is and what it's like to see a house where you and your uncles and your dad and everything ran sheep. And now there's a house there that's never going to go away. And I think it would behoove everyone if, you know, we understood our neighbors both ways.
And to see
where it's, because there's like, there's an anxiety and a longing and there's a homelessness when I have a home. Right. It's like, what is my home now? Right. Because feeling at home is not when I have a roof over my head anymore. Yeah. Feeling welcomed home is not when I have a roof over my head. Right. Do I feel welcomed and at home when I get off the plane in Idaho? Right. I don't, like, I am home, but do I feel at home? Do I feel welcomed home? Right. You know, because there are plenty of people that tell me all day long on like the interwebs, it's like, go back or like whatever it is. It's like, listen, this is a tricky situation. Yeah. We gotta see each other and understand how it's hard for each other, you know?
And it's hard to, I mean, in those core memories, right? Like those core memories you have of what home feels like, right? What, I mean, it's hard. How do you can't just shake those off by moving somewhere new. And that's the thing. I think, I mean, probably for your experience, you can't just, you obviously came here because of a lot of great things we have, but still there's probably a longing in some ways. I mean, is that like a nostalgia too? Like a longing for maybe how things used to be? I don't know. I don't know from your perspective.
I actually, since I moved here, I've really only dreamt about being back home twice. Oh, I shouldn't even say being back home, being back to where I came from twice. And both times I woke up and I was like, that's a rough one. But it wasn't wanting to be back there. It was remembering my children when they were toddlers. It was remembering walking to the preschool. It was remembering, it was longing for a time in my family's time, like span, right? That's what I remembered. And I happened to be there with them. Right. But it's not the location. It was like, I remember running around with the double bob with my 4-year-old and my 2-year-old after my wife had just had an infant, and they had, you know, little snacks and they had their toys, and my wife was at home sleeping with the infant and I was trying to get a workout. Like I remember those moments, right? That's not a location. That's just, this was family. Right. And you know, really honestly, to shake it, all I had to do was like, I was sipping a cup of coffee. I'm like, why did I have this? What a weird thing. And all I had to do was remember like, oh, that was in like 2015. Yeah. What was it like in 2021? I'm like, this is God bless America. God bless Idaho.
Oh yeah. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm going to go downtown and get after it.
But it's hard. I mean, for your perspective, it's right. We got the, like, you know, our state, even in my own district, I have a part of Caldwell that I knocked all those doors in those subdivisions. It's all people from the state that shall not be named, right?
Right.
And I think even for us, as someone who, 5th generation Idaho, my family's been here since the 1880s, right? How do we make sure, we're representing those folks too, who are very conservative, right? And just moved here and, and have left a place that maybe they have some longing for, but left it for good reason.
That's the point.
Yeah.
To represent them effectively.
Yeah.
I think for all of us to effectively function together in whatever way we have to, you got to understand. Here's a perfect example that is playing out in real time. And I'm watching this going like, oh my. So there's a big brouhaha in West Ada School District.
Yeah.
We're not going to get into it. Okay. But the point is that you have a teacher who had a poster up and the district has a, neutral classroom policy. And they had a team of people that determined this poster does not fall in this policy. If it's not tied to curriculum, if you can't say exactly how it helps with like reading, writing, arithmetic, whatever, it's got to come down. She goes to the news, the teacher, she's very upset about it. And West Ada gets blasted, all these things. So I interview the people from West Ada. I would love to interview the gal from the
Sarah,
school, Sarah. Yeah. And again, like good faith. Like I've never gone after people. I've never betrayed guests. Like in good faith, I would interview this. I want to understand her experience. But what is interesting is you have, I think, people that are like, what are you doing? Leave the poster alone. This is insanity. Right. So you have people that are like, this is ridiculous. And then, on the tails of that, you have people that are from the state that shall not be named that are like, this is how it started. Good job, West Ada. You have both sides. And there has to be a reconciliation. Like these people, the people that don't want the poster up, they're not bad people. They've had a life experience. And this life experience has made them very anxious about this thing.
About this happening.
And the other people that want the poster up or think the poster shouldn't have been taken down at the very least, they have a life experience. And they're like, this isn't making sense. And that's the point. It's like, can somebody explain? And everybody's saying, explain this to me. Right. And it's like, this is the problem. Like, listen, this is the problem. You have people here. No one understands each other. And so they're just going at each other.
And fired up.
Yeah. But like to really represent everyone, we have to actually understand the problem.
And you got to listen, right? I mean, and that's why, you're the perfect man for the job. Like there were some posts that you're like Switzerland. Like that cracked me up, man. I saw it. You're the Switzerland of Idaho. I think that was it. I was dying when I saw that.
You know what's funny? Nobody wants me to be that either. Everybody, either you only want one of two things. You either want me to be on your team or you want me to go away.
Which is where no one wants you to be it.
Can I tell you a beautiful thing that happened to me? Listen, I'm gonna read you something. This happened to me last night, and holy cow, I want this to be on the record. This one, and again, I'm not gonna name names, but like you need to understand what. Oh my gosh, what happens to me? I'm sorry, I'm doing a terrible job pulling this up.
No,
here it is. Okay, you ready for this?
Yeah.
This is an email I received last night. Okay, now mind you, I did the interview with the West Ada folks last night or yesterday. I didn't even post it. I posted a clip helping people understand like this is coming out.
So has it come out yet or not?
No, it did. It came out. It came out this morning, 6 a.m. this morning.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the email I received. Truth in media. Are you kidding me? This just more right-wing propaganda disguised as truth. I guess you might think you're a free speech absolutist. This podcast and host are horrible.
Jeez.
Okay, now hang on.
There's another one. There's another one coming.
But this, I'm not just going to read you a bunch of crazy angry stuff. What I will say is my response to him right out of the block was, "Hi, blank. Thanks for your note. You seem quite upset. I'm just curious, what episode or guest disturbed you?" Right. And he comes back and tells me Josh Tanner, Jason Monks, and more. And then he goes on to say, it's clear all you really are is a propaganda wing for the disgusting politics of this backwoods state. There are real problems people are facing, but our legislators do nothing about them. Why? Blah, blah. And I won't, again, my point is, I did not argue with this gentleman.
Right.
I replied to him and just said, hey, totally gotcha. Sounds like, and he goes on to list problems, education, suicide, all these things. So I go on to say like, hey, I would really encourage you to check out my other episodes, including Lauren Nekachaya, Senator Mitchell Winthrop.
Get Monica on here.
Right. Bill Mitchell on gay employment rights, and Grover from Idaho Schools, right? Like Lee Flynn on Idaho Crisis and Suicide Hotline, like Susie Keller from the IMA. And by the end of this exchange with this guy, you know what he says to me? He said that his last email to me was, I wish you the best, Matt, with your endeavor. I've been a small owner my entire adult career and have been in Idaho for over 40 years. I know this state and its politics, education, and healthcare. What I need is solutions rather than showcasing how incredibly inept it is, but I do love the people of Boise. And I was like, great.
Yeah.
So he went from hating me to wishing me luck and watching the shows. And there were other emails where he's like, okay, I have watched these.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh. And it's like, this is what we could do. I didn't lead with defense.
Right.
I led with, first, thank you for communicating.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. And I led with curiosity. What upset you?
Yeah.
Right? He wasn't mad at me. He's mad at whatever, right? He's mad at the state of the world. Fine. If we could do this with each other, if we could just engage with each other in human interactions, we could get to the point where it's like, hey, I wish you the best, man.
Yeah.
And that is a state that I think everybody wants to live in.
Oh,
that is a state that, but like the way we're communicating, the way that we're engaging with each other,
right?
This is the wrong way. We need to come back to like having this. Hey, man, I wish you like, all right, good stuff. Like I've had a bad experience or I had a bad day or whatever, but God bless it, man. Get after it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what we need.
You're doing good work. I mean, and honestly, you know, when you come on these, it's just like chatting with people allows that different perspective than just like one little soundbite, right? Or like that traditional media model where like they're interviewing you for 2 seconds. Like, do you really get to know somebody throughout that thing? I mean, trying to get an understanding of it, because we have so many varied issues, you know, facing our state. So many varied issues, you know, bring solutions, right? And that's a big part of what, you know, at least we're trying to do at the legislature in some of this, man.
And you never know what you're going to get when you talk to somebody. I got a sheepskin.
Yeah, look at this. You'll be wearing it. You'll be wearing it.
This part of the program is brought to you by the Idaho Sheep Wool Growers Association. God, why is it, okay, can you tell me something real fast? Why is it that this is so damn soft, but wool socks are so scratchy?
So they card this out. So like when like they really just pull it out, and so it's attached. You can probably see this. The hide's under here. Yeah. And so they aren't like, you know, putting it together, but you can see the individual fibers. Oh my God. So when it's on the sheep, it doesn't feel like it feels kind of coarse, but when they clean it and then they you have this little kind of comb thing and they pull it out, makes it nice. And so, it's great.
Do you have to carve it out by hand?
No. Carve it out. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, it'll be fine now. It's already it's all good for you. It's all good for you.
I don't want to take this. I want it to be in my studio. You know what? I want it to be on my studio, like on the back of my chair.
Yeah. Oh,
That's what I should do.
Yeah, you should.
The chair thing.
Yeah, the chair thing.
I'm gonna take it home. My kids are gonna get my dogs.
They're gonna like
pee on it. Yeah. Oh, it's gonna be. It's gonna look like it was back in the
back on the
pasture again. Yeah. Anyway, Representative Schertz, I appreciate you,
Matt.
sir.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, you as well. Let's do it again. Maybe at the end of the session.
Avamore. Yeah. Avamore.
Oh, and Avamore. May 8th and 9th.
Yeah, maybe it is. Yeah, 8th and 9th.
Okay,
session,
and get me in contact with your uncle.
Yeah, Uncle Frank. You get him on here.
All right, it'll be great. All right, thank you,
see
sir.
You, Matt. Take care.